Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Saturday, April 15th, 2017 edition of VR News. As you guys can see, I am comfortably back in the man cave, which is awesome. Traveling behind me, more of it in the future. And like I said, we talk about all of that stuff on Tuesday. Can't wait. Also, it's kind of like a Friday to me today in that my company provides a paid day off for both Good Friday and Easter Monday. And of course, I'd mentioned Exity coming over tomorrow. Looking forward to that. A Gaming Friday on a Sunday that's going to feel kind of like a Saturday. But that's all a bit confusing. So I'm going to shut up and get started with what we're all here for, and that is VR News. So let's start with Starfighter Inc., which was a Kickstarter project that just, and I literally mean that, just funded. Those of you who've watched the channel for a while, you kind of know my stance on Kickstarters, that I've got pretty strict criteria. I'm not against it, I'm just very careful for what I will back. And the checklist on how I go about that is pretty comprehensive. The good news is I haven't really been burned. The bad news is a lot of stuff that looks interesting, never kind of gets my support, right? And obviously I'm going to be wrong a lot of the time too, but it's about being right. And for me, that's a little bit more important, making sure that I don't waste the money. Because most of the projects, if they do succeed, you can usually get them after the fact anyways, right? Now, this one specifically called Starfighter Inc. Haven't done the research I normally would to kind of establish if it's something I would back, but just based on the surface, kind of, just a quick look at the players behind this, I'm getting good vibes from it. Now, when I say these guys just funded, they literally had about 12 to 20 hours left on the Kickstarter when they crossed the magic threshold. So they just got the funding. And one of the things that I look at with Kickstarters, is somebody who has industry experience in whatever they're promising. And the fellow behind this project is David Westman, which many of you or some of you may recognize as one of the people behind X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which was an absolute classic in the 90s. In fact, when I did that montage about 2 weeks ago, the weekly gaming recap, it literally showed in the middle of the pack Wing Commander and, of course, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, because it was that important for that genre of games. So they want to kind of retain the spirit of that game. The other thing I like, other than the fact that he's involved, is that they're going to be available for Rift, Vive, and OS VR. So not just a Rift or just a Vive game. No exclusivity here. It's going to be launched across the board. Very cool. Next VR game type news story to talk about is the studio behind Star Wars Battlefront's VR mission. They are working on, according to Road to VR, something quote unquote awesome in Battlefront II. Now I want to be very careful with this. Theirs is just speculation. Now, if it's speculation that ends up having substance, it would be amazing, because even though the experience was short, it was pretty damn good, that mission, the Battlefront VR one. It worked. And what I would love to see is more of that. Now, in the trailer, they suggest a full single-player campaign, added multiplayer features, but there's nothing in the trailer to really hint at VR. The only thing we can go on is the fact that EA has been throwing up positions online, like seeking people with virtual reality expertise. And the latest type of example of that is a posting that they put up looking for an environment artist. And they listed specifically that they are seeking somebody with, quote unquote, experience developing for VR. Now, you could ask for that and not be doing anything in VR, right? You may just be asking for that on the off chance that the resources and timing are right, that you could again offer something similar, i.e. a very short VR experience. Hopefully, though, that's not the case, and that single player goodness they're talking about is going to be doable in VR. That would be cool. But better to kind of stand on the sidelines, I think, let some time pass, and hopefully they substantiate that and we have a better idea. Next news story. According to Road to VR, the Trippiest social music platform in virtual reality. It's called TheWaveVR, and it's launching on Steam. They've just added about $4 million US in seed funding and are essentially a social VR platform, but one that specializes in the music angle. Now, they're early access. They're going to be Rift and Vive, so just like the previous project, which is good. And what they're centered around is weekly virtual concerts. So they've got DJ events. They want to eventually do concert type stuff. So like I said, it's a social experience or music is at the core of the experience and the social kind of around that. So if it's a concert, a DJ, rave type thing, hell, even just to get together to discuss, music will be the core of it. So if that is your interest, and they're calling those quote unquote wave shows, and that's the last quote unquote I'm going to use for the show tonight, guys. But like I said, if you're into music and social VR, why not check that out? Next news story, Facebook. They've hinted at this, and now they've hinted some more. So basically, Facebook, to put spotlight on virtual reality at the upcoming F8 conference, and they may actually, this is also speculation, show off the headset, or at least a prototype of it that they've been working on. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, past October rather, at the Oculus Connect event. So he was the one who he provided the opening keynote. And he said that at the time that they are working on a standalone virtual reality headset called Santa Cruz that will combine some of the higher end features of the Oculus Rift with the portability and ease of use of the mobile Gear VR headset. And said this about that: we believe that there is a sweet spot between these. So that was just last October. Now, according to the questions that they were willing to answer, it's not going to require a connection to a computer or the use of a phone to render VR experiences. And it's also going to feature inside-out tracking, which means it'll be able to determine the location of the user in a room through sensors attached to the HMD itself. Nobody has convincingly pulled this off yet. There's rough examples of it out there, but nothing smooth and anywhere near as good latency-wise or accuracy-wise as what we've seen either with Rift's Constellation system or the laser sweep lighthouse system that Vive uses. So that'll be interesting if they are working on one to try to hit that middle spot, because I gotta agree, I like my Gear VR, don't get me wrong, but it's very limited in the types. It doesn't have the functionality to do a lot of the stuff that I like to do with a VR HMD. So hopefully this future HMD does, and by fitting into that sweet spot that he called it, it just may. So it'll be interesting, and hopefully that speculation put to rest at the F8 Facebook event. Next story, Visbit, a 360-degree live streaming application, is now in open beta on Steam. Company behind this, Visbit, they are Sunnyvale, California based. And one of the things that they've been focusing on is allowing you not just to stream the 360, but to do it in what they're calling 4K ultra high definition. In fact, according to them, here's what Visbit co-founder and CEO had to say about a closed beta that they had just conducted. Thanks to the feedback from our closed beta users and initial testing, we've made a number of tweaks and additions to make our all-in-one streaming solution service more robust and available for broader adoption. We continue to push the limits of what is possible, evident in our recent industry-first 12K streaming breakthrough and support for live streaming, and are looking forward to integrating these features and more in our services in the near future. So, very cool. They go on to say, or rather an innovation technologist at a company called Primacy, who was commenting on Visbit, said this: offloading the handling of video streaming and downloading and the ability to stream high quality content on cellular connections is very helpful. Visbit's SDK is straightforward and simple to use, making it that much easier for us to deliver a quality VR video experience. Next and last story, guys. Someone used HTC's Vive Tracker to create a VR Stylus, and this thing looks pretty cool. So the dev behind this, his name is Jimmy Gray, and he talks about this product on his Twitter page. He states that the stylus connects to a USB dev board that's called Teensy, but that it could possibly be made to support wireless connections in the future. However, he's not getting into the details on that, won't talk about that. He's kind of keeping that very close to his chest, which is understandable. The video, however, and check it out if you're at all interested in digital art, that type of thing, and VR, the combination of the two is what he kind of shows an example of in his video. So he's got the puck-shaped Vive Tracker on an actual stylus. You can see in one pane what he sees, and then the actual drawn text, etc., that he's working on. Very cool. Apparently, the accuracy of the tracker is such that it can even detect sensitivity, i.e. pressing harder or not pressing as hard, and the resulting thickness of the line is appropriate to that sensitivity. Very freaking cool. And yet another example of one of those Vive trackers doing neat stuff. There you go, guys. That is it for this Saturday. I apologize for the lateness of this. I am extremely tired, so if I sounded a little out of it, that is absolutely why. It's been a very long day. I will be back tomorrow for the gaming edition of VR News tomorrow with my buddy Exity. Guys, hope you're having a good weekend. As always, cheers.